Coming up on Network Africa today, South African Police Service destroys 800 million rand worth of drugs. UN peacekeepers leave Mali in a hurry and under threat. Plus, limited gas supply triggers nationwide power outage in Ghana. Hello and welcome to the program on Channels Television. I'm Anne Nwawado. Let's start in South Africa, where the South African Police Service, SAPS, recently destroyed drugs valued at 800 million rounds in Johannesburg. This is the third drug destruction process in this financial year, and the most recent destruction in Cape Town in September, where 1.7 tons of a value of 170 million rands were destroyed. SAPS reported that in 2022 and 2023 fiscal year, 20.8 tons of drugs with a street value of 20 billion rands were destroyed in that year. The UN mission has been pushed out of Mali, has now forced by the actions of the ruling junta to rush its departure and sabotage the equipment left behind so as not to risk the lives of the peacekeepers on the road for lack of flight permits. The MINUSMA was pushed out after the junta in power since 2020 called for its withdrawal in the month of June, proclaiming the failure of the mission and announcing its alleged instrumentalization of the human rights issue. The group is leaving amid military escalation, more than dangerous by what are perceived to be restrictions imposed by authorities on its ability to maneuver. And this brings 10 years of efforts to try to stabilize a country plagued by jihadism and a deep multidimensional crisis to an end. The various armed actors fighting for control of the territory in the north are seeking to take advantage of the evacuation of the MINUSMA camps, while the army is striving to take them back. The predominantly Tuareg separatist groups who oppose the army have resumed hostilities against its Al-Qaeda-affiliated group and has stepped up its attacks there. And in the Democratic Republic of Congo, the eastern provinces are grappling with a steep hike in pump price of fuel. In Goma, North Kivu, and Bukavu, South Kivu, the cost of public transportation has increased drastically. Taxi drivers and motorcyclists have tripled, as some have quadrupled their fares. As a result, the majority of commuters have resorted to walking. They argue that there is no solution, and in spite of the planned meeting to set prices, many fuel resellers are breaking the rules. Despite consumer protest, petroleum companies in South Kivu claim not to be responsible for the price hikes. Let's head to Ghana now, where most parts have been plagued with darkness since Thursday evening due to a lack of gas to power machinery used to generate electricity in the country. Power distribution firm Ghana Grid Company Limited put the supply deficit at 550 megawatts at peak time and Tema power plants near the capital in Accra. The power station, which will worsen in the coming years, has been exacerbated by the country's financial distress. According to the study by the Center for Socio-Economic Studies, Ghana gets its much of electricity from mostly poorly maintained hydro and thermal sources. Now let's speak to Joy News TV correspondent Kojo Brace. Kojo is coming to us virtually from Accra, Ghana. Thank you very much, Kojo, for joining us on Network Africa. All right, let's move ahead. How is it for you? Do you have electricity, or is the outage also affecting where you are and people in your area? All right, I guess we'll get Kojo later on the program. But meanwhile, 6 people were injured when a drone crashed early on Friday into the Egyptian town of Taba, which borders Israel, a country at war with Palestinian Hamas in the Gaza Strip. Al Cairo News Television, which is close to Egyptian intelligence, had previously reported a rocket fired by an unidentified party as part of the current escalation in Gaza. Witnesses confirmed that the projectile had hit a hospital annex in Taba, on the northeastern tip of Sinai, where there is a border crossing with Israel. The Sinai Desert Peninsula is bordered with the northwest by the Gaza Strip and shares its eastern border with Israel. But Egypt, which is a historic mediator between Palestinians and Israelis, which holds Gaza's only gateway to the world, that is not in Israeli hand, has been on the front line since Hamas's October 7th strike on Israel. Meanwhile, a projectile fell near an electricity plant in the desert area of the Egyptian town in Nuweiba, about 70 kilometers from the Israeli border on Friday. This is apart from the drone that crashed into a building adjacent to a hospital, injuring the 6 people in Taba. That's according to 2 Egyptian security sources, underscoring the risk of a regional spillover from the Gaza conflict. Witnesses in both places who asked not to be named confirmed hearing explosions and seen smoke rising and Egyptian warplanes flying overhead. "23 years after the adoption of a landmark UN Security Council resolution on women, peace and security, their presence is still woefully lacking at negotiation tables. That's according to UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres while addressing the Council's annual debate on Resolution 1325. He's appealing for countries to urgently bridge the gap between rhetoric and reality through concrete actions in the areas of participation, financing, and leadership. During his address, Mr. Guterres also highlighted how women's contributions are needed in the world that is on a knife's edge due to raging conflict, escalating tensions, coups, rising authoritarianism, climate chaos, the nuclear threat, and other crises.
23 years after this Council adopted Resolution 1325, women's participation should be a default, not an afterthought. But that is not the case. Women are leading efforts on peace, justice and rights around the world, but still far too many women's organizations struggle to fund their essential work as military spending soars. Far too many perpetrators of sexual violence walk free, and far too many peace processes exclude women.
The Middle East is witnessing a dramatic escalation of violence. To date, more than 1,400 Israelis have been killed by the horrific attack by Hamas, many of whom are women and children, and an estimated 200 remain as hostages, many of whom are women. And Gaza has been under devastating, relentless bombardment, killing more than 6,000 people, a majority, 67% of whom are women and children.
Marking the recent United Nations Day, UN top officials in Somalia reaffirmed their support for the Somali government and people as the country continues with its state and peace-building efforts. The Secretary General's Special Representative for Somalia, Katerina Liang, noted that the UN has been in Somalia pre-independence. She was accompanied by the Secretary General's Deputy Special Representatives for Somalia, Anita Geho, and George Conway, with the latter also serving as the UN Resident Coordinator and Humanitarian Coordinator. The head of the UN Support Office for Somalia, Asia, was also in attendance.
We've been here in Somalia pre-independence. We've been here through some of the very tough times that Somalia has faced. And it's an important anniversary, and it's an occasion to recommit with hope and determination to build a better world for all of our aspirations. And we're at quite a crucial moment where we need to agree collectively under the leadership of the government is the way forward on elections, the kind of model that Somalia will pursue the timeline, the sequencing of elections, and of course, very importantly, to try and bring Puntland back into this process. This is in recognition that the government was facing challenges conducting the counter-offensive whilst also generating enough troops to take over the forward operating bases that are held by ATMIS. This time is being used wisely to do some reconfiguration, some resetting, and to replan the military strategy.
Now about 4 million Somalis are living at different levels of food security crisis. And that's a lot. That's a very high number. And 3.8 million Somalis are internally displaced across the country. That number itself increased by 1 million people over the course of the protracted drought. So right now, today, in addition to the baseline of humanitarian need in the country, we're very concerned about the impact of El Nino on the deer rainy season. We've already in the past 2 weeks seen flash flooding happening in a number of cities throughout the country.
Well, good morning, everybody. It's a great pleasure to times that Somalia.
I told you earlier about parts of Ghana being plunged into darkness since Thursday evening due to lack of gas-to-power machinery used to generate electricity in the country. Now we have Kojo, who's a Joy News TV correspondent, Kojo Brace, joining us virtually from Accra, Ghana. Hello, Kojo.
Hi.
All right, thank you for joining us on Network Africa. So my first question to you will be, how is it for you? Do you have electricity, or is the outage affecting you and those in your area too?
Well, I do have electricity, and when you come to the office, we have a standby generator. So if it does go off, we turn on the generator. But a lot of the places too who don't have what we do have are going through the difficulty of not having power. We've picked information from several of the regions, and several places have had this power outages for some time now. Throughout the week, several places have been reporting of their power going off at various points within the day. So though I have not witnessed or experienced it, but so many people, so many areas within the country have experienced it.
Converting machinery that was used up until just 2 days ago?
Well, so you know that we have the West African gas pipeline company, that WAPCO, which was helping us transport gas from the western region to Tema, because we produce our gas in the western area. But because of some debt accruing, which we have to settle WAPCO for, and the country has not been able to. WAPCO has decided to prevent the transportation of gas from the Western Enclave to the Tema, where we have the thermal plant to make use of this gas. So it's because WAPCO has decided to block the gas from Takrady to Tema. That's why we're going through this. But it's also because the nation owes WAPCO. 2 months ago, it was around $13 million, but we're hearing today that it's around $20 million now. And that has to be paid before WAPCO would allow us to transport gas from Tema from Takrady to Tema. So once that has not been done, it will be difficult that we'll get gas in Tema to then produce power for people to use.
But are you hearing anything from hospitals and other institutions that need constant light? What is the government doing about it to at least alleviate the sufferings that people are going through at the moment?
Well, from where we are, we've not really done much of work on the impact, because it's been some few days since they started. But even before, we told the story of the hospital in up north, where their power was taking off and the generator was not also being powered because they didn't have fuel. So especially when you go to the rural areas, they will have to grapple with power outage and not having generators. So the impact will be huge. Now, the ministry, we've not heard anything from the ministry now as to how they are going about trying to negotiate with WAPCO to then agree to terms to turn on the gas. We've not heard anything. So we can only assume that currently they are doing, backdoor meetings to see how this will go. So once the ministry has not spoken, of course, we won't know exactly what is happening. But the most dangerous thing is that the Electricity Company of Ghana, which is into distributing of power for us to use, does not also know when this whole thing will end, such that it could then tell them how to go about planning to supply power to us, such that if they have to do power rationing, they would then know which communities or which areas would have power at certain times of the day. So it's such a dicey situation now, but we expect that the government is definitely meeting WAPCO to see what they can do to avert any potential negative impact it will have, especially on healthcare delivery in the country. So we can only hope, because we've not heard from the ministry, we can only hope that the government is really negotiating behind the doors with WAPCO to see what they can do. WAPCO is telling us that they are going to give out a detailed statement to spell out exactly what they are also doing or what is at stake. But until that comes, we won't exactly know the things that they also intend doing and the impact that will be having. But I can tell you that from the few days, it was 650 megawatt of deficit. It moved to 550 megawatt. We don't know what it will be today, but people are really suffering.
All right, thank you very much, Kojo Brace. We have to go now. Join News TV correspondent. Thanks a lot for your contribution on Network Africa.
Grateful for having me.
Back here in Nigeria, 10 couples have been selected as recipients of the Biduni Ighodalo Foundation to mark the 5th Parents Waiting Conference. The chairman of the Biduni Ighodalo Foundation, Pastor Itua Ighodalo, says the idea is to keep supporting those who are looking on the Lord for their own children, which is one way of ensuring that his late wife's legacy lives on.
We have been married for more than 12 years, and we went for places, we went for churches, we went for different hospitals until we came to this place. To the glory of God, we are one of the beneficiaries.
Testimonies from families who waited years to become parents show that it's not a pleasant experience.
In fact, she said it was positive.
The desire to help such couples birthed the Biduni Ighodalo Foundation, conceived by the late wife of the founder, Trinity House Pastor Itua Ighodalo, in 2016. Having traveled down this road herself, Biduni Ighodalo established the foundation to raise awareness on all other possible options to conceive a child and provide grants to families who require fertility treatments.
Collaborating with AFRH, the Association for Fertility and Reproductive Health of Nigeria.
Even after her death, her legacy lives on. The 5th Parents in Waiting Conference succeeding in childbirth holds at the Trinity House, Victoria Island, Lagos. Her husband and chairman of the Biduni Ighodalo Foundation is grateful for the support to sustain the dream.
Thank you so much for being a very constant help and support in times like this. Ibiduni, we love you very much.
Medical experts in the house engaged the gathering on preconception strategies, prenatal and postpartum healthcare.
The sooner we start engaging with professionals to check our preconception viabilities, the sooner we do it, the better. Whatever condition you present with to your doctor, the recommendation that they're giving you, keep an open mind and accept the options that you have.
Every pregnant woman or every woman trying to get pregnant should start folic acid at least 3 months before getting pregnant and must be continued first 12 weeks of pregnancy. The whole aim is to prevent neural tube defects.
A co-founder of World Women Organization, Sarah Nystrom, shares her waiting story and how she eventually became a mother.
I took for granted that of course I would get pregnant in no time. Do you think I did? No, I didn't. Months became a year, and we did checkups, we did a fertility investigation. And they couldn't find anything obvious with any of us, but we were scheduled for IVF treatment. I became pregnant immediately, but it failed. What I didn't know then was that I was already pregnant. I was pregnant in my heart with the most beautiful little boy in a country far away from mine. And we decided to adopt.
And wife of former President Olusegun Obasanjo, Mrs. Bola Obasanjo, speaks about the importance of the work being done by the foundation to families.
The Ibidun Ighodalo Foundation stands as a beacon of hope, as a sanctuary of support, and a fortress of strength for family navigating the complexities of childbirth and infertility.
Beneficiaries of the Ibidun Ighodalo Foundation encourage parents in waiting not to despair and not to give up.
We're part of the beneficiary of the 2021 grants, and today we have come with our testimonies. We could not come last year because I think they were just like a month old when the program had. So we want to appreciate the organization. We say thank you, sir, thank you, man. And for those that will be coming on board, I just want to tell you that God makes everything beautiful at his own time.
Today, you have the list. They will come up one by one.
10 couples are selected and supported with grants to take a leap of faith that they will carry their babies.
And we ask that God will make them fruitful.
The vision is to build a mother and child center for Ibidun. So we've been pursuing that dream. It's going to cost a lot of money, but ironically, we're going to be partnering with one of the Lagos state government hospitals in the Aja area, okay, that have given us the opportunity to help them finish one of their facilities. And then that will be the beginning of various mother and child centers that she will be having.
Over 20 babies have been born through the Ibidun Ighodalo Foundation, and the non-profit organization says it's willing to keep the initiative going through voluntary donations to help Ibidun Ighodalo live her dreams.
I'm hoping that in 5 years' time, we would have lost count of how many babies God has blessed the foundation through.
And may her gentle soul continue to rest in peace. We're back here, and let's go to South Africa now, where the Deputy President, Paul Mashatile, is expressing his confidence in the Springboks securing victory in the upcoming 2023 Rugby World Cup final. He conveyed his sentiment while responding to questions in the National Council of Provinces on Thursday, underlining the nation's steadfast support for the team.
Well, I thank you, Honorable Speaker. I will be watching rugby on Saturday, and I'll be supporting the Bokke. You know, when the Bokke goes into a match, they go in to win. So I'm looking forward to that win. In fact, the president is leaving tomorrow to go and cheer them up. So we need a good score, but anything in rugby, if you are 1 point ahead, it's fine. If it's 11-10, it's fine. If it's a good margin, we are even more happy.
And that's it on Network Africa for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Anne Mwawadu. Have a wonderful weekend. Take care.